We are The Meltdown, and we've been watching the latest Disney Plus series set in the Star Wars universe, The Acolyte. We just made it through the 4th episode of this series, which is the halfway mark for those that are keeping count. The series is estimated to cost around $180 million to produce, which means each episode's about $22.5 million. Did they get their money's worth out of episode 4? I would say no. It's a lot of walking and talking through the woods, as there are some major issues that I have with it. We will get into all of those. I am Meltdown host Tim Melton. That is my co-host, Mr. John Lunsford. And we have Tyler Johns back there producing for this series review and watch along week by week. Made it through episode 3, where I feel like this thing took a drastic negative turning point downwards in quality. We are now into episode 4, and I feel like they're not paying off a lot of the questions that maybe we had from those first 2 episodes. However, we did have a major character motivation change, and now May wanting to be a good guy, wanting to sort of side with the Jedi and sympathize with them and turn herself in out of nowhere, while after walking dozens of miles to try to find a Wookiee in the forest. It is a poorly written show, in my opinion. The payoffs are not there, and the most critical thing I can say about the entire process is it's boring as hell to watch. John Lunsford, are you officially selling all of your stock in Disney Plus's The Acolyte after what have been 4 episodes with no payoffs for the audience?
No.
Diamond hands.
Because it's currently at its lowest possible, so you're not supposed to sell when it's at the lowest possible, because it was boring. It was the shortest episode, like 35 minutes, but I feel like with credits, felt like it was like 20. And it was 19 and a half minutes of walking through the woods that was boring. But then the final 30 seconds, I'm watching it in bed, because that's the other thing I hate. They released it at 8 o'clock. I wish they were, or 8 Central, 9 Eastern. I wish they would just, if it's Tuesday, it's Tuesday. So if I come home at 6 o'clock, because that's when I usually watch TV and eat dinner, let me watch it at 6 o'clock. Anyway, so I'm laying in bed late last night, finally watching it once it came out, because I had moved on at 8 o'clock. It was boring. I was getting ready to fall asleep. And then the last 30 seconds, I was like, okay. And then it ended. I was like, well, never mind. That didn't really go anywhere. But at least there's lightsabers at that point. It looks like there's one bad dude versus, 8 Jedi, that I'm like, this could be cool. But then it cuts off. And so for all I know, this episode's going to start, and it's like, boy, we survived that battle. And then they move on to another boring scene. But there's at least that I was like, never mind. And nothing happened with that. So it's currently at its rock bottom right now. So you got to be diamond hands right now and hope that something happens in the next 4 episodes, and then you at least get a couple cool fights out of it. Because I still think the first fight was a cool fight that lasted for the first 5 minutes and Trinity was dead. But, I'm still hoping there's something out there. A
lot of critics, the only episodes they've been able to see so far have been the first 4 episodes. So now we are going into uncharted territory. The Rotten Tomatoes score that you see currently representing the critics is for the first 4 episodes. I'm surprised it's as high as it is. The audience score has been destroying this thing. I really turned on this thing after episode 3. This one was less anger-inducing and more like frustrating.
This was more filler.
It was filler, but it didn't even meet that capacity. I think when we look at this episode after the entire 8, which I think we're all going to continue on watching, this will be looked at as the most meaningless episode out of the entire 8 for sure. That's going to be my bet, and I hope I'm right. Tyler, how did you approach watching The Acolyte, and what did you think of episode 4?
My stock in The Acolyte has been so low that I actually forgot to watch it last night and randomly remembered this morning that the show existed and I needed to watch the episode. So I did that. I like Basil, the little otter-looking guy. Other than that, poor writing, poor acted. I don't see what the point in having May switch motivations 4 episodes in is. And also, this episode just really, like you guys said, felt like filler, and I feel like it's just to pad out another week before everybody's charges who got Disney Plus for The Acolyte hit again.
This menacing figure that we've seen appear at the end of episode 4, what is their motivation? Hopefully we'll get those answers. But this revenge tour that May has been on has not been of her own doing. She's been instructed to do these things. So did she set the fire in episode 3 that killed all those people, or were there more things going on that took out the horde of witches? And since it's not really, it doesn't seem very personal for her now that she's swapping back to the side of the Jedi and has decided to turn good, and whether or not that'll be accepted, we shall see. What is the motivation behind this individual, male, female, not sure yet, that is darkly cloaked and has enough power to force push all of those different Jedi at the same time? This may be one of the strongest characters we've ever seen, with the force push being as dramatic as it was. Will we get these answers? I hope so. But do most people even care at this point? Because it is something that people are dreading to watch. It seems like it's the lowest of quality of any Disney Star Wars series that we've seen thus far on Disney Plus. The investment into these characters is limited, it feels like. John, what is the number one burning question that you have?
Who the bad guy actually is. Any good story has to have a good bad guy, and we honestly don't know, because May is not the bad person.
Nope.
And her switching motivations, I'm assuming, is, hey, if I get closer to Coruscant, that'll make it easier to kill Sol, who's also somebody she has to kill. But
so you don't buy it's an actual, like, I love my sister and I've decided that I'm going to reconnect.
No, I buy
her.
it as I'm scared of my master, but also need to try to finish it so he doesn't kill me. Kind of a torn thing. It doesn't have anything to do with her sister. She doesn't necessarily want to kill her sister, because her sister is not on the list. It's the 4 Jedi that she has to kill.
She wants to reconnect, though, with her sister, according to her own words.
Because they both realize, and they now both realize that, oh, they're alive. Because at first, when the motivations happened, that wasn't there. But Sith Acolyte is a rank. So when it's the Acolyte, I'm thinking that May is a Sith Acolyte. Or maybe Osha turns to a Sith Acolyte. I don't know. But you don't know who the bad person is. You don't know what their motivations are.
Maybe
You don't
they're
know anything
the
about
Acolyte.
them. Maybe they are the Acolyte. I don't know.
Acolyte.
But it seems like they're, more in charge. But that we have no idea who that is. We've seen one scene where they talk from a distance for 30 seconds, and we have the one scene last night with lightsaber, push, end, and that's it. So, you have to have a good bad guy to make any comic book thing, any space thing like this good. I mean, Darth Vader helped make Star Wars. I mean, the Emperor helped make things like you have to have the good bad guy. And we don't know who the bad guy truly is at this point. There's just a random person in a mask.
Is there any chance by the end of this the big bad will be Sol? That he's the one actually pulling the strings?
That's what I was thinking.
Happened to be there in episode 3 at the right time, right place.
Or they'll shoehorn a Palpatine in there or something.
I don't think they'll do that, but I think it could be any of the Jedi who are dead right now. It could be, because I've seen people point this out, and this is kind of a interesting thing, but it's I saw something on Facebook where there's a montage of people getting stabbed with lightsabers and then living and moving on, and Trinity got a little bitty blade, boop, right there in the chest, that it's yes, if you hit the right part in the chest, you could kill somebody, but also we now know, and maybe this is 100 years ago, whatever, we now know, thanks to both The Mandalorian with Grogu and with Episode 9 with Rey, you can heal with the Force. That was something that was never really there, but it's oh, you can just go and heal. So I could see Trinity ultimately end up being, I forgot what her name is in the thing, because she was in it for 5 minutes. But
the Wookiee that got killed last night, off screen, by the way, a character I was really looking forward to seeing what they would do with.
That's the other thing.
I feel robbed of this character too.
There's 4 Jedi that are supposedly supposed to die. 4 episodes, and 3 have died. You saw the fight, at least with Trinity. You did not see there wasn't a fight because the dude drank the poison that had the invisible force field around him, and then the Wookiee was killed off screen, and all you see is, I honestly didn't even look that deep of a cut. It's oh, he just kind of singed his fur. I don't know if he's actually dead or not. So I still think literally any 3 of them could be alive and still come back, because how many times have we seen people come back in Star Wars?
We've seen it quite often. I don't know how much of the Acolyte I want to see come back. Episode 5 is not something I'm looking forward to. I
don't have faith they're going to fix anything, but there's still something there if you did it the right way.
As a Star Wars fan, I hate to have to come on here and talk about how much I hate the direction of the property currently. It does not bring me joy. I do not look forward to it. It is not something that brings me any level of excitement to come on here and tell you that Star Wars is not trending in the right direction right now. But I think they are doing real material damage to the brand of Star Wars. And that is my biggest fear of this series, that it is hurting Star Wars as an entire property, and that the pain that viewers are experiencing from this may last for a long time. Now, am I being overdramatic? I hope so. I hope Star Wars has a long, healthy future ahead of it. but I don't think there's a lot of young kids right now that are inspired to become a Jedi based on what they've seen from the Acolyte, which is hardly any Jedi at all. Tyler, what do you think about the current state of Star Wars, and is it a legitimate concern that I have that it's in trouble as a property, as a franchise, as an IP?
I think so. Because Star Wars as a franchise has to move beyond Skywalker saga and everything that's already embedded within that timeline if it wants to continue for another 50 years, right? But I just don't see it. They've tried introducing I say tried loosely with the Acolyte to introduce more complex morality systems, and I've even seen backlash on that with some people saying no, Jedi are good, Sith bad, the end of story right there. But I would like to see that idea executed well. It's just being executed so poorly that I'd rather have a cookie cutter good versus evil story.
John, when you look at other series on Disney Plus, there are some real highs. Mandalorian season 1, the entire fan base went, finally, we got something we can agree on.
Yeah, but Acolyte is so bad, I might just pirate Mandalorian.
You know what? I wouldn't admit to that. The second thing is...
You at least have it for a month, so you got some free days in there.
The second thing is, it seems like the fan base is pretty united on not enjoying the Acolyte. Now, there are a lot of people who probably do really like the direction this is going. Maybe it hits their flavor profile. And I'm not going to take anything away from those individuals who are having a fun time with this. I just know that you are a big defender of Disney Star Wars big picture, and this is something that I don't see you passionately defending. It almost feels like you're kind of waiting like us for this to be over and we move on with our lives.
I'm waiting to have the full story so that I can say, nope, it didn't land the plane, or yeah, I think it was okay, which is the best it could be right now is okay. Mandalorian overall has still been very solid to me. The overall story, even though it's been 3 seasons worth. Obi-Wan was okay enough, had some decent stuff to it. Andor was great.
There was a lot of dumb stuff in Obi-Wan.
But there was a lot of good stuff to ultimately make it okay. Andor is incredible. I thought Ahsoka was really, really good. So they've done good stuff with Star Wars. I still think Force Awakens was overall definitely a massive hit. I still like The Last Jedi. I'm not as high on Rise of Skywalker either. I don't hate it with a passion like a lot of people do, but I'm not as high on it. But I mean, the truth is, and I'm still willing to admit this, Kathleen Kennedy is a first ballot Hall of Famer without a doubt, and you can never deny that. But it's still, the greatest have to retire at some point. Tom Brady had to retire at some point, and, the best of sports have to retire, and the best in movies probably need to move on at some point. And she's in charge of Lucasfilm, and it just ain't quite there right now.
Do you think the acting is good in this? Because I think it's horrendous.
It's
I really
atrocious.
do feel that way.
I think Soul is good. I think your bigger names with him coming from Squid Game, Carrie-Anne Moss, only in it for 5 minutes. The problem is your names you brought in aren't there. And I didn't think the acting from Joshua Jackson's ex-wife, I can't remember her name. But that was one of the moms. She wasn't bad, but the source material wasn't necessarily there for her.
It was rough.
That the newer people I don't know anything about, and I don't really care about the actors necessarily. My thing where I'm having trouble with this is everybody always complains. You never get anything new. You never get anything original. But the truth is 90% of people out there just want to have the same cookie cutter stuff. So even if you do good adaptations of stuff that's different, a lot of people are still going to be like, that's not my Star Wars. I'm not saying this is good, but I don't know that you can do it good, if I'm being honest, from an overall standpoint of what people actually think. I don't know that you can do outside the Skywalker saga right for the mass audience. And I don't know that this was the right choice, but this is only going to hurt it even worse to where when the Old Republic, if we ever get anything from the Old Republic, which is what everybody asked for, you're not going to like it.
I don't think you're going to get it. I don't think you are. And the problem here, the number one problem, is not that it is taking the chance of being outside the Skywalker saga. It is the fact that it cannot stand on its own 2 feet based on quality alone. It cannot stand on its own 2 feet. And that's the biggest concern of how much they spent for this, and you're not seeing that given back to you off the screen. You do not feel like they're putting money into the production. Where did the money go for this? Because walking through the forest for 26 minutes or whatever and having almost almost no action altogether, minus a CGI caterpillar that ended up developing wings and flying around.
Take away the CGI budget, and this is a fan show.
Well, let's be honest. John, you love visuals and stuff. Mm-hmm. The landing of the ship early on looked really bad. It looked really bad. It's like, ooh, that's not good.
It ain't worth $180 million.
No,
I'm with you on that, but
someone's got to be held accountable for this.
Well, Kathleen Kennedy's in charge. That's why she has to be held accountable for it. Like I said, she's easily, one of the greatest of all time, and I will defend that to the death, but you still got to retire at some point.
Star Wars is like a stock, and right now, its stockholders are the ones that are being screwed over the most.
And I'm not going to sell that stock, ever, probably, but... Because if you look at everybody says Disney ruined Star Wars. Disney has done a lot of really good Star Wars. Disney has done a lot of really bad Star Wars. You take the good, you take the bad, you have them both, and there you have the facts of life. But it's just everybody's destroying Disney, saying they have ruined it. They're just not doing other stuff well. What they need to do, and I don't necessarily like this direction being the only way you go, but the best stuff they've done has been Rogue One, which is Skywalker Saga, but not fully Skywalker Saga. Mandalorian, which is Skywalker Saga, not fully Skywalker Saga. You need to probably just focus on that kind of stuff and call it a day. Focus on, hey, from episode 1 to episode 9, what else is going on in the universe? And kind of stick to that. That's what's worked for you overall.
We're set to get a Rey movie sometime soon, but it will not be considered episode 10. It will just be a Rey standalone set after the events of episode 9.
And they do need to stop with the episodes, I agree.
We'll see how that goes. The problem with stopping with the episodes is that you lose the opening crawl, you lose the main music, you lose so much of what makes Star Wars Star Wars. You lose a lot of the formula, and you're sacrificing it because you've decided you're going to stop telling the story. And
I don't think you have to lose that. I think they've just made the choice to lose that.
They made the choice.
But you don't have to. You could do the Rey movie and still have a crawl at the beginning.
Game of Thrones did it right when they decided we're going to continue to keep this as a Game of Thrones property, and we remind you of that every single time. And that's another thing. I know you think it's a little bit apples and oranges comparison, but one of the worst things that can happen for Star Wars right now is House of the Dragon. Every single scene is riveting, and a lot of it is talking. It doesn't have to be just straight up action. Every scene is riveting. Every scene feels important. Every scene feels weighty, and it's coming back at the exact same time that the Acolyte feels like a complete waste of time, a complete bore, and is not paying off any sort of minutes that an audience member is putting in. And it's making it look even worse by comparison because of how good House of the Dragon is and how excited you feel watching it. And I've yet to feel that fully with the Acolyte. I'm hoping it changes for episode 5. I'm not rooting against the Acolyte. I'm rooting for it. But am I betting that it's going to improve? Absolutely not, based on what I've seen halfway through the series. We're halfway through. What has happened? Almost nothing. Nothing has advanced forward. Almost literally nothing. We still
think there was a cool fight for the first 5 minutes, and then nothing happened.
Cool fight that disappointed everyone who wanted to see her play a major part in the series.
I'm one of those people.
You're one of those people. But I think when it's all said and done, John, this will be a series that you're going to try to erase from having to talk about because it's going to be looked at as being such a poorly executed show. And I hope
nobody wants to hear about it, so I don't have to talk about it.
I'm hoping you're correct. You don't have to bring it up because no one's going to actually want to stay in this world. It's not good, folks. It's as simple as that. Right now, John has done I think, an amicable job of trying to, represent Disney's interest here and what they have of trying to push Star Wars forward. But even you and your temperament tells me, based on how long I've known you, that this is just not clicking right now, and it's not firing on all cylinders, and I don't think you're very optimistic or hopeful that it's going to get there, but we shall see. John,
did you guys see that the Star Wars Holiday Special actually has a higher rating than the Acolyte now?
Yeah, the Star Wars Holiday Special was always the thing people could point to and say that's the worst thing Star Wars has ever made. Some people would still say Jar Jar Binks is the worst thing that Star Wars has ever made. This makes Jar Jar Binks look like freaking Marlon Brando.
I actually liked Jar Jar. I didn't mind Jar Jar, but I was also like, I don't know. Let's see, when did that come out? 99?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the same year I was born. So
John Misa go to my bookie.
Let's not go too far on Jar Jar now.
Sorry about that.
Jar Jar's the worst thing that's ever come from Star Wars. And that was before Disney. Go to mybookie.ag, promo code next round, and you get a first deposit bonus. You can play in the sportsbook, play in the casino, play the live casino with real live dealers, real live cards. Go play mybookie.ag, promo code next round.
I don't watch Star Wars to hate Star Wars. I watch Star Wars to love it. And lately there's not been a lot to love, especially from the Acolyte. The consistency's all over the board. We'll see if they get their act together and what major news comes out of the studio as Lucasfilm's looking for answers. The last Indiana Jones movie was a complete flop. The latest Star Wars series is being destroyed by the fan base. I'm hoping they can get their act together, but right now, with who's currently running the show, I don't have much confidence in that at all. What are your thoughts about the Acolyte? Maybe you're loving it. Tell us why. We'd love to know, as I just can't find a lot of reasons to want to continue on, but I will on behalf of this little experiment that we call the Meltdown.